Coming up in today's video, I take you through how I decided to base my Chindits for the jungles of Burma. This jungle basing tutorial is super easy to follow, takes very little time at all, and will make the basing process a lot more enjoyable. If you enjoyed this tutorial, be sure to leave me a comment below. Alright guys, so we want to base our models for the jungle. Now there's different ways of basing for jungle environment. You've got a dry jungle look and a wet jungle look. So here I've gone for a sort of a dry jungle look. So I've got the roots of the trees growing over the top of the soil. I've got different colours, grass tufts, I've got moss, and I've got leaf scatter involved with this. Now you can make it as heavy or as light as you want. You can add a lot more green to it. You can add some more bushes, some of those tropical flowers that a lot of people like to use from aquariums. So if you've got a fish tank, you'll know what I'm talking about, where you can get really cheap looking bits of foliage and bushes that look like something you'll see in the jungle, especially in the Pacific. So you can go that route as well, but I try not to go too heavy when it's single models. But we want to base this guy in a similar sort of fashion, but I might make it a little bit heavier. So what are we going to need to achieve that? So the first thing you're going to need is a bag of bits of junk that I've pulled out when I've been doing the weeding. So you're probably thinking, what on earth is this guy going on about? It's probably the only time I've enjoyed doing the weeding and the gardening. So when you go out in the garden, pick up any loose bits of branch or anything like that. When you're pulling out weeds, grab the roots of the weeds because they're going to come in really handy too. So you can see in here that I've got bits of roots from the weeds, and I've also got bits of branches as well. Then we're going to need a variety of foliage. So I use AK realistic green moss. So we can put that on the roots of the trees, any blown up trees that we're going to put on there, any fallen logs, anything like that. Then I've got some green stuff world. I believe these are 2mm or 3mm green tufts. These are, again, very good for the jungle. And I've also got some more dark green tufts from Green Stuff World. And finally, I've got some of this thyme from just a generic food brand in Australia. Master Foods is very well known here in Australia, but obviously you'll be able to get this anywhere. This is going to be fantastic for your leaf scatter. It'll also make you crave spaghetti bolognese, but if you want to get a really good cheap alternative to leaf scatter, this is the way to go, and the smell won't last for too long either. You'll be paying upwards of 20 bucks with some companies to get leaf scatter, and you don't get much of it. This is going to last me a lifetime, and I can also season my dinner in the process. Okay, so with all of this stuff, and if there's anything else, I will show it during the process of me basing this chap. And I'll also leave all the links to this stuff in the description. But other than that, let's get straight into the basing. Okay, so to start off with, I'm going to use AK Muddy Ground, or AK Terrain's Muddy Ground. Anything similar to this is perfectly fine, and I'm just going to be quite generous and put this on and around the base. Alright, so to apply the muddy ground, I'm using my trusty toothpick. The reason I use a toothpick is just because it's cheap. I'm a bit of a tight ass. I don't like to waste money if I can get a cheaper alternative, so the toothpick is the way I go about that. Once that's on and it's still wet, so immediately after you've applied that muddy ground texture, I'm going to grab those roots from the weeds. I'm going to grab ones that have got a bit more stiffness to them. And I'm going to snip them to size. So I want them curved a bit so I can just put them outside or coming out of the muddy ground texture and then back into it, as if those tree roots have grown in some sort of odd angle like you would expect in the forest or in some sort of jungle. And yeah, I'm just going to push it in, and I'm going to let that aka muddy ground, dry for 24 hours, which is going to seal those roots. And then I'm going to put a Vallejo wash of sepia wash, which is a bit more reddy, and I'm going to apply that generously and let it dry for about an hour. Once that's dry, I'm going to give it a very generous dry brush of flat earth. You could probably use a better brush. Mine's very old, as you can tell, but I want to get his trousers all dry brushed as well, because this is going to give the illusion that they've been trampling through the forests and the streams and that of Burma, because these are my Chindits, so they're being based for Burma. Once that's done, I'm going to then give it another dry brush quite generously as well of khaki. It's going to give it a bit more of a stony, sort of woody texture or look to it, but try and keep some of that flat earth and that muddy ground texture coming through as well. Now once that's done, I use German Camo Bright Green to simulate those bits of greenery coming through the mud, so the moss and all of that. If you wanted a really dry jungle like the ones that would be in India, if you're basing your army for the 14th Army, I'd recommend an orange color. And if you're doing the Pacific, so like Marines or Japanese in the Pacific, then you could use the green as well, because that'll work quite nicely. And then I'm painting the roots in German Camo Black Brown. If you make a few mistakes, it really doesn't matter. It actually gives it a bit of a shadow, which makes it look even better. So it's up to you how much of this you actually want to put on, just as long as you've covered the roots. And then I dry brush the roots in old wood. Obviously, this is just your own flavor. The old wood sort of matches with khaki, so it blends in, which is what you want. The roots are going to be the same color as the ground texture, because they're going to be growing outside the ground. They're going to get weathered exactly the same way as the ground would anyway. So yeah, it's up to you what you want to do, but old wood works for me. And then paint the trim of the base in whatever color that you want. I use black. Black's normally my go-to unless I'm painting like winter infantry, but because I'm not painting those, I'm going to go with black here. Once that's dry, I'm going to grab some of my grass tufts. I'm going to apply a little bit of PVA glue to the bottom of them. They already have an adhesive sticker, if you will, or some sort of adhesive pad, but PVA glue also helps. So these are the green grass tufts from Green Stuff World that I'm using to start off with. This is going to simulate those really bushy areas of the jungle. Now you have to go to your own taste here. You can add on as many tufts and as high as you want them. Obviously the jungles have really high bushes, have all kinds of stuff coming all over the place, so go as hard or as low as you want in terms of how much of this you're actually going to put on. So next I put on the dark green, so that's just to simulate some of those other types of flowers and bush that you would get in the jungle. So my own personal taste is sometimes less is more. When we're talking about the jungle, obviously if I was to actually go a full jungle vibe on these, you wouldn't be able to see at least half of the model. So we have to sort of play with that and try and get it to work nicely, where we're not going to be ruining the paint job that we've done with our basing. So sometimes less is more, but also you want to give off the jungle vibe. So it's a really hard sort of happy medium that you have to find, but you'll know it once you get to it. Then I'm using the thyme, and I'm just grabbing individual leaves so they look like leaf scatter. They're big, like what you would find in the jungle, and they work really nicely. And then I'm grabbing some of that realistic moss, so you can put that on top of the roots, you can put that underneath the roots, along the path that they would be walking. Again, you can go quite heavy on this, or you could go quite light. It really is your call. So now I've done, these are the finished models. So as you can see, it's not crazy. I've not gone with like a super heavy jungle vibe. You know, I've not got bushes coming up to their torso, ripping their trousers apart and all of that you'd expect to find in the jungle. But it really is what I was going for, and it looks how I had imagined it to. Perhaps I would add a few more taller branches or like sort of bushes. in the future. But for now, this is what I wanted to go for. I wanted to go for more of a dry jungle look, and as if they've been following sort of path that some native guides would have been inevitably taking the Chindits down. But anyway, let me know what you thought of them, if you're going to be using this tutorial, if you think I should have gone a lot heavier. This is my first time really basing for jungle, so I didn't want to go too heavy, but perhaps I could have gone a little bit heavier. But this is really a basic guide, guys. It's just to show you it can be done really easily with very little effort involved. It takes, you know, all of half an hour to do these 3, excluding drying times, obviously. But yeah, anyway, I've rambled on enough. If you're new here, please subscribe. It really helps, and like the video, share it. All of your sharing really does help the channel grow and gets those watch hours up as well. But other than that, I really appreciate you guys watching, and I will catch you at the next one. Thanks.